Morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, I have been expressing on Facebook a couple of times that with this vertigo, I've had some insights as well as wanting to go ahead and talk to you about how we create our reality. So, this is about how I created my reality, okay? How I came about coming down with the vertigo. See, so I'm looking at my notes here. So all last week I had vertigo. I still have a touch of it when I put my head back. So I won't be looking up very much. But I've also have been sick since New Year's. So um, I am typically never continuously sick like this. Normally, I'll get a cold and then it goes away. But this has been a steady being sick. I'll feel better. I'll get sick. I'll feel better. I'll get sick again. So, this vertigo has given me a chance to reflect. So, usually we create things in our mind first before they manifest in the physical. So that's right. We have a helping hand in creating our reality. We might not be aware of our thoughts, or if we are aware of our thoughts, we're not aware of how powerful they are. So back to my vertigo. Like I mentioned, we create our thoughts before they manifest. So why did I create this vertigo? So I was pondering when I was um, in my state of not being able to move. And so when I look at what vertigo does, it makes you dizzy. It makes you dizzy so you can't look around. You have to focus on what's right in front of you. So there's no avoiding what's right in front of you, even though vertigo is because you're out, you can't do anything. You are in a state of avoidance. So it's very interesting. I'm going to take a step further and say that the sinus pressure that I've had, this congestion that I've had since January, um, also is a representation of what is stuck, what is not moving, because congestion doesn't move, it's just there. So, you feel like you got to blow your nose, but you can't blow your nose, and then you feel the pressure behind your ears. So I've been creating this stuckness because in my real life there are things that are happening that make me feel stuck, and then the way that I look at them and the way that I approach it goes along with that, validates that I'm stuck. So I don't know about you, but when I have congestion, I can't think, I feel thick, I feel fuzzy, I want to lay down, I want to go to sleep. So looking at that, why am I creating a space to detach, to disengage from life? What don't I want to face? So now that I put the two things together, the sinus congestion and the vertigo, so it's like, what aren't I letting go of? What am I continually holding on to, which would be the congestion? Then you add in the vertigo. What am I not willing to look at? So vertigo makes you keep your head straight, makes you stay focused. Why the congestion? We want the congestion to break up so we can breathe and think. So what do I feel is making a mess of things in my life? When I focus, when I have focus, or better yet, when I'm focusing on what is bringing up such congestion, which is the lack of flow, the lack of joy. What am I allowing to block and shift my focus from the ease and flow of life? It's pretty deep, yet profound and simple. So now you are all probably pretty curious about what I've done to create this in my life. First, let me start off with, we all have a responsibility to ourselves, and that responsibility is to love ourselves unconditionally. And for many of us, we have never been taught that. There are very few who have, and that is wonderful. But for the rest of us, we were not brought up in a family that was either very loving, very affectionate, and taught us how to do that. A lot of us were brought up by parents who for a lack of better words, had shaming qualities to them, or we took it as shame. Our parents did the best job that they could, and they learned all their stuff from their parents and their family background. So this is definitely not a knock on parents at all. So this year started off very serious. So some of you remember my boyfriend ending up in the hospital. Well, the day before that happened, we had come home and there was a major issue that was happening in the house. And this issue involves a family member who basically we didn't see eye to eye to, and there had been a lot of deception over many, many years. I am still dealing with that fallout, and for me, that fallout is very painful. To think that you are always trying to put your best foot forward and thinking that the other person is was receptive, behaved like they were receptive. But then you come to find out that it was all smoke and mirrors. It wasn't true. They didn't feel that way. They just were putting up a front for whatever reason. Okay. So this isn't a time of judgment. This is a time of reflection. So knowing how hurt I was and how it hurt me because of the deception and how I responded to that, and then having Marty be so sick. And then there's another issue going on in my life, which is an attack on my character and who I am as a person, has me feeling unsupported, unsafe, scared would be, so there's fear involved. So those are all the things that are coming up. And so when we have these negative, unhelpful emotions, we start having dialogue in our head. And sometimes this dialogue triggers an unconscious pattern, which is our self-talk. And sometimes our self-talk isn't very helpful. It could be very sabotaging. And that self-talk could also be not only sabotaging, but monkey brain, where we play a situation over and over and over, and then we have certain things from our childhood, whether they be unhelpful beliefs, unhelpful statements, unhelpful judgments, and we'll say those patterns over in our head. This is what I mean by we create it. We're sitting here up here, we're thinking about it, we're having discussions, we're having feelings, we're dealing with our feelings, and it could be a very toxic or it could be a very helpful thing. But when we're thinking about it and we're up here in our mind and we're thinking about it, this is where the creation starts. So we manifest things up here in this field where we're thinking, and then all of a sudden it starts to manifest in our personal life, okay? So with all these thoughts that have been going on, it's no wonder that I would create for me a place that said, no, I'm not going to deal with this. This is way too much for me to deal with. I'm going to be sick. Oh, I can't get out of bed, or I'm going to have to retreat, something that makes you pull away, to give you that sense of either a break, not wanting to deal with it, and an opportunity to reflect. It could be a self-protection thing. So this is not a shaming thing. This is all about going in and looking at the reality we create when we're not in a place of flow, and when we have patterns that keep on coming up well, why do they keep on coming up? What are we thinking? What theme keeps on happening in our life that we're not willing to look at, or we're looking at it and we're just like, what do we do? How do we get through that? Well, when you go in and you look for the symbolism behind what's happening, you can go a little bit deeper. And when we go a little bit deeper, there comes the time when we can start healing that part of you. So one of the books I started off with was this one. It's Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, and it's fabulous. So you go in, you look for your symptom, and then it gives you a basic why you did it, what's coming up. And then it has affirmations. For those of you that love affirmations, this is great. So when I look up dizziness, vertigo, it says that flighty, scattered thinking, or refusal to look. And so, like I said before, when I was pondering, because there was no way I was getting out of bed to get this book, I was pondering and I was thinking, okay, what do I want to avoid? So that's the same thing. What do I want to look at? What am I trying to take a break from? And so then the affirmation would be, there's two of them here. I am deeply centered and peaceful in life. It is safe for me to be alive and joyous. So depending on how you work with yourself, there are some of us who meditate. There are some of us that clue into our chakras. There are some of us that just, go into our heart or into our mind space and we kind of think about it. So how this would work would be, for me, this is what I do. So when I'm stuck, like had I not had the vertigo, okay, let's say this was for congestion, which I can look up to, I would go into a place and I would be like, okay, so when I started thinking about things, I could have the wherewithal to say, oh, there I go again. I'm thinking about it. Let's stop, because that's unhelpful. And then I could state, I am deeply centered and peaceful in life, and use the affirmation that way. Now, this one's really, really good. It's a lot thicker and it goes way deeper. And it actually has things in it that help you process, help you look at different things. So for me, this is cool. So I just want to read a little bit to you. Emotion, so vertigo, the emotions. So it lists out, this one lists out the emotions, it lists out key points. And so the emotion says, you often have many self-sabotaging blocks in your life. You seem to feel that you don't deserve to have things come easily to you. Any past attempts at becoming successful have been sabotaged by influential people's own self-destructive behavior. You may have been raised in a family where you felt unsafe and stuck in a flight or fight instinct. Perhaps you were exposed to volatile, unpredictable moods. You fix and adjust things constantly in an effort to avoid how you feel. So that's like busybody stuff too. You can be exposed to many unstable and unpredictable circumstances. As a result, you do not always know what to do. This pattern has overlapped into your adult life, causing a great deal of anxiety, confusion, stress, or loneliness. You may know how to survive within a chaotic situation, but have reached a point where you have lost complete control of how you feel. So these are just coming up with different little synapses of what you may be feeling. It doesn't say every one of these things you're feeling, okay? You have a fear of change and the unknown. I could say that's true for me. The unknown, sometimes in a hostile situation, like the ones I'm mentioning, that unknown is very uncomfortable for me. It stresses me out. And that comes from a childhood of not knowing what was going to happen. Living in that fight or flight, you have a sense of not being able to understand during times of intense conflict what is going to happen, because past experience has shown that it doesn't end well. So it goes on to say you are overcompensating for the lack of control you experienced during your childhood by expressing too much control. So that's another thing, being a control freak. This pattern often attracts circumstances that will only leave you feeling out of control. Once again, feeling out of control seems to be a familiar emotional state that stemmed from your childhood years, like I just said. You have enough of being delegated to or ordered around by an authority figure. You may have been in an abusive relationship that may make you feel powerless, helpless, or unable to control your future. You feel that too much has been expected of you and you cannot cope with all the demands and needs of others, along with your own unmet emotional needs. And it just goes on and on and on. So there's like four more aspects. So then it says key points. So this kind of helps you go in and adjust. If you're sick of your patterns, this helps you go in a little bit deeper to assess where your patterns came from. And once you are able to understand, separate what happened then and now this is just a condition, now you can start choosing, well, is this what I want to behave? Is this how I want to think? Is this helpful for me? And then if it's not, then you can start choosing for yourself because you're an adult and have wonderful abilities for taking care of yourself. You now can decide what is right and best for you. And the best thing about making change is you have little tiny goals. A change doesn't happen overnight. It takes tons of practice, tons of self-love and self-forgiveness, okay, when we make mistakes. And lost my thought. So anyways, so it goes back to the key points, like when did the conditions start, and then it starts listing through different things that could have happened to you to bring this up. And this is just to get you thinking. Things that I did was obviously thinking, okay, why am I doing this to myself? How can I get through this? Let's see here. I'm looking at my notes. I wrote down, I am looking at my thought patterns and making changes to the ones that are not helpful to me. Instead of sitting down and wallowing in my triggered emotions and my thoughts, I'm looking at what can I do that will help change how I feel. Because I'm a person that loves to evolve, to constantly grow, and to master my emotions and my environment. I want to be the best human being I can be. Because when I am, then I'm able to bring that to my friends, my family, my clientele. So what actual things can I do to propel me forward out of this situation I have so wonderfully and perfectly created for myself for my growth and expansion? So it's no surprise, I'm reading my notes now, so that when I look up vertigo and sinus congestion, look at the spiritual reasons for these ailments, people suffer from vertigo when they start to grasp some of life's more existential questions, wondering if life has meaning. This is attributed to a person's feelings of emptiness and smallness. People who experience vertigo suffer from a sense of not being grounded and have unresolved issues that cause imbalances in their life. This could mean unresolved feelings about taking their lives in a new direction. So change, new job, new perspectives, new relationships, maybe it's a move. Dizziness is an inner spirit disorder, and the cure is surrender. So once I finally read that, actually I Googled spiritual meaning for vertigo instead of going to my books. They were in a totally different room, and I had my computer with me upstairs. I was like, oh, surrender. Oh, okay, how do I surrender to this? So being able to say it was okay. You know, it's okay that I have this dizziness. It's okay that I created this for me. It's okay. My clients are understanding why I can't meet with them. You know, Marty was super supportive. It was okay. I had friends checking in. What can I do for you? So I totally had a lot of support and was able just to sit there and go, okay, I can surrender. Now, sinitis, which is the congestion, is a good one too. And so it had said when I looked it up, every illness or ailment is rooted in the mind, and sinitis is no exception. Do you consider yourself an overachiever? Yes. A perfectionist? Sometimes. Do you often refrain from telling people what is really on your mind? Yes. If so, then you fit the sinitis sufferer's profile. So this doctor, Ive Kerr, I think if I said his name right, states that in his experience, repressed anger is the #1 contributing factor to chronic sinitis. He also goes on to state that from an emotional point of view, sinitis, bronchitis, and asthma or fourth chakra issues, which is our heart, is all heart issues. So of course, when we're angry, it really has to do with our heart. Unmet needs, unmet expectations. We aren't getting what we need from people. The cure, it says, is to have a talk with that person you are angry with. I tried that. That didn't work. So anger is definitely an issue that had been causing the sinitis. I fully, totally agree with that. Angry at the situation with this family member, angry that I had been lied to, had been played, angry that that all the love that I was giving out was not being received as love. So yeah, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt. So some of the excellent self-care things that I did to help get me through this is, one, you got to have a support system. You have to be able to ask people to help you get your food, help just listen to you, help you process this. Finding someone who can see the patterns is also helpful. So if you don't have a counselor, maybe a holistic healer would help. Ding, ding, ding. Or, or just getting, this is a great intro book. If you want to start doing this work on yourself, I highly recommend that book, and learning to send yourself the forgiveness and that self-love. Anyway, enough of that. So, anytime you deal with emotions, plants are great. Flower essences are wonderful. And so, there's different ways we can get flower essences. There's the well-known brand Bach flowers. They're in, like, out here it's Mother's. So any, like, food place, healthy, holistic food place, Sprouts, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's may not have that. They may have something similar. Mother's has it. Whole Foods may have it. I get mine from Mother's. But you can go there and look. Also, any type of tea that has any type of flower in it. So it could be hot or cold. So like hibiscus tea, rose hip tea, chamomile. I mean, there's just so many. So whatever you gravitate towards. I have a friend named Shelly who also makes her own tinctures. They're like tinctures of flower essences. And so we'd muscle test and find out if you're in the local area, or if you needed me to muscle test for you and have it shipped to you, I could do that too. But there's certain ones that work with certain issues that you're going to. There's another company called Floor Alive, which I love. They're great. They're online as well. And you can muscle test and figure it out. But then there's also oils. These are Young Living oils. doTERRA probably has a great blend of them. I have to look into the doTERRA stuff a little bit more and see for you doTERRA users which ones would be very beneficial during emotional upsets. But for me, Trauma Life was really good, and I just rubbed this on my feet. This helps you process your emotions. It helps you release the intensity so that you can process through them. At least this is how it works for me. And you just put a drop or two on your feet. It's got a strong smell. Forgiveness works really well. Like I said, forgiveness, we have not really been taught that it's okay for us to feel the way that we feel. And to be able to have forgiveness for you, for how you feel, to have forgiveness for yourself if you are an overachiever of not being perfect and actually failing. This helps you accept that failure. And for me, I don't like to look at failure as being failure. I like to look at it as I need more practice. Failure, I always learn from my mistakes, or I always learn from the situation. So there's no such thing really as failure for me. But forgiveness really helps bring in that ease of being able to transition, stress away, the bomb. This really helps with the anxious feelings that you have. During times of upset, it kind of, people who feel anxiety, who have panic attacks, when you start going into a stressful situation, for anxiety, it's helpful to get on it right away, right at the very first onset of an emotion, to try to keep it from flaring fully out of control and having a full-on attack, or at least making it little, not as intense. Stress away is amazing. And I put that here on my wrists, I put it on my feet, I put it on my back, and I put it right here on my chest so that the vapors are rising up. So I'm constantly, not only am I getting it topically into my system, which I think takes 22 minutes to get into the body, but when you smell it, it's like less than a second to get in. And then Valor is great. This is an old bottle. I've had it for years. Valor is great because Valor helps you have strength in the midst of chaos. So when you feel so overwhelmed, Valor helps give you the strength. So these were my go-tos: meditating, praying, talking to friends, talking to Marty. Is great. And so this is what I do when I work with a client. I always start off the session. How are you? How was your week? Because that is like a window into what are they creating for themselves. So in the midst of a session, I'm listening to the way they talk, the words that they use, and it gives me more insight and guidance, because we may be headed, they may think that, oh, this is the problem. I want you to work on me today, and I want to work on this issue. But when I hear everything else that's going on, like I said, we create our physical reality. So if they're dealing with a pain issue, it's like, okay, well, what's going on, that created that pain? Our body creates pain for us. It's the way it communicates with us. So when we're uncomfortable, if we don't listen to it, it'll gradually move into pain. And pain isn't a bad thing. It's just that something needs to be addressed. What else do my notes say? Oh, it says asking these 2 questions creates awareness. Not only do I create balance within their body when I'm working with them, but I also help them understand in their mind what is happening. And so that actually creates balance in their mind and spirit as well. So when everything is balanced, there is more flow. So when there is clear understanding and why things are happening, then there are clear, actionable steps that can be taken. When we have understanding, we feel more empowered to help ourselves. And if this understanding creates fear, then we're able to look at, well, where is this fear coming from? And we can work on gaining clarity as well as healing that part of the fear. Okay. So, so then, of course, working with the anger, the tinnitus, it's come to a point where there is no communication, and we're both going in our own direction. So now it's the grieving process for me, because I loved this person. I still love this person. So being able to release them in love and saying, okay, your path is going to take you on a different journey, and I'm going to go on a different journey. And now it's up to me to kind of heal that hurt. And so now, I'm dealing with all of that. So now it's on me. As for the vertigo, I need to dig a little deeper inside. I'm still working on that. I do feel like I have a vertebrae out now, whereas I did not feel that was what it was before. So I think it's your cervical vertebrae number 2. I think if you go to a chiropractor, especially an applied kinesiologist, those guys are wonderful. I highly recommend an applied kinesiologist because they muscle test and they only do what the body says is necessary. Okay. So I have to go and make an appointment and get my neck adjusted. So anyways, so thank you for listening. And if you have any questions or you want to talk to me deeper about this, obviously I could talk a long time about that. So, and I'd be more than happy to give you some guidance. Just go ahead and private message me, or you could go ahead and call me, and we can have fun with it. Life is a journey, and it's all about finding those moments to enjoy that journey. So if you're struggling, you don't need to, okay? We could give you little actionable steps that help you bring in more joy, more balance while you're going through a tough situation. You don't need to suffer alone. You don't need to suffer in silence. And you definitely don't have to suffer by recreating a pattern. If you need help understanding that pattern, please, again, just private message me, call me, text me, whatever. Just get a hold of me so that we could start to break that up so you can start living your life the way you want to, which is with less pain, less drama, less trauma. So anyways, I wish you all a very happy Monday. I hope this was informative. Hopefully I didn't talk your ear off. Blessings. Love and light. Where's my camera? Let's see here. There it is. Okay. Bye-bye.